Hey guys, I'm like so sorry I'm late. I have a cold, okay, but that's not why I'm late. I'm late because my original guest that I had, Darren, he had to pull out because he had some stuff to do in Texas. So we will be rescheduling his live. And today I'm going to take the opportunity to emphasize how important this 22 election is. I know a lot of people are waiting for the infamous Q. All right. It's the elephant in the room. It's not a big deal. I'm not going to bash anybody. I'm not going to trash anybody. But we're going to have an informed conversation today on Make America Think Again. Before we get started, I'm going to recognize all of you and say welcome. Thank you, Patriot Nation TV. Shout out to him. He's a dope YouTube content creator. You guys should go follow him and check out his stuff. He said, "Oh, the anticipation." I'm glad that I can do that. Have people like, when are you going live? Because we need to hear it. Hello, Carissa. Where's everybody from? Drop your locations while I get everything set up. I have some dope guests with me. Everybody already knows Casey's going to be on here. But I have two other guests that are going to be partnering up with Primetime Patriots and Be the Change. You're going to see a lot more of their faces on the shows. And these guys are overall, they're really dope guys. They taught me a lot. Like when I first started podcasting and doing this, they exposed a lot of information to me. South Carolina, Texas, Hawaii, what's happening? New Jersey. Shout out to Dave Rinkler. He's running for mayor out there. Put your vote behind that guy. He's dope. The comments are flying by. Jeez, okay. Thank you, Angela. That's going to be the theme of the show tonight. Okay? I'm going to bring up a really probably controversial question. But controversy is okay, but we need to talk about it. Georgia, Kentucky. Northern California, deplorable. Hello, Primetime Patriots. Who is that? I want to know who that is. It's one of our moderators. He said deplorable. I like that. Smallest, most corrupt state. Can you guess it? I don't know. Rhode Island? It's pretty small. You have to tell me. Howdy, Florida. So Cash is great. I'm going to show you guys a message from him. I actually texted him today. I did a show the other day where a guy was like, "I love you and Cash so much. You're responsible for my awakening." So this is me and Cash. We talk every day. Cash is doing great. Don't worry. Keep him in your prayers. You guys can also send him text messages. We'll probably be posting that information again on how you can get up there. Well, welcome to the show. Let's get started. I'm going to bring in my guest. Welcome, Casey. This is the middleman.
You always just say that. Whatever.
Casey's a bro, though. He's family. I love Casey. Here's Cole. This is Liberty Revolt Media. These are the guys that you're going to be seeing a lot more. And we got Bucky Dillon. And I've done a lot of radio shows with Bucky, so you guys are probably already familiar with him. And he's done a show with us. So welcome, and thank you for coming on the show.
No. You changed your shirt, Dylan.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Dylan had on an Alex Jones shirt. Thank you.
Conspiracy.
It's a conspiracy.
It's free Alex Jones. It's freedom. Come on, nothing wrong with that.
Shout out to Alex Jones. You know, he gave us a nice drop on his show.
Yes, he did.
We appreciate that. Great lineup. I'm glad you guys are excited. So we're not going to hold you any longer. All right. Let's try to make this a maximum of 45 minutes, 30. We'll squeeze it in there. You just got your shirt today. Shout out to you. Take a picture of it. Make sure you hashtag Make America Think Again. Thank you for the purchase. Is Q detrimental to America? And I will let's let Cole go first. I'm interested what you got to say about this.
Ooh, all right. So honestly, I think it depends what you mean, because I think Q has done a lot of good for America. And not Q himself, herself, JFK, whatever, I don't know. But it exposes a lot of the ways that people think and just exactly what Americans can fall victim to and become susceptible to if they are allowed to. And it exposes what the media will do to shut down information if enough people get behind a theory that isn't backed by the people who own the media companies, right? So I think it's good in some ways and detrimental in many ways. But of course, it's detrimental for the fact that it's kind of crazy. And by kind of, I mean like, man, it's pretty crazy. The fact that so many people have gotten behind it really says a lot about not only the American head and psyche, but the whole human head and psyche, what we think about politics in today's day and age. I know that's kind of a nebulous answer, but I think I can hash that out as we go forward.
Okay. What about you, Bucky Dillon?
Have you guys ever heard the term dog crap in the brownies?
No, that sounds like some real down south stuff right there.
So that people will ask you, would you eat a brownies if there was a single little piece of dog crap in it? I think it's an inside job. I think the very people way up the top of the food chain in the CIA and other intelligence agencies put together Q. And I think what they did, and this is what I mean by dog crap in the brownie mix. I think what they did was take some legitimate conspiracies, some legitimate questionable things going on, and they grabbed hold of it and erected a false flag movement so that they could corrupt some legitimate questions by associating it with a broader thing. So what they can do is you take people who are starting to question the establishment and you feed them some legitimate conspiracies, and as they start to go on with it, you give them a false leader, and then you start implementing inch by inch a little bit more delusion into it until eventually you can categorize everyone who tries to grasp onto that thread of truth into the basket of insanity. Remember when there was the scandal where they said that a right-wing militia was trying to kidnap the governor of Michigan?
Yeah, I remember that.
It turns out that the FBI informant that tipped off everyone to that event was the guy that was putting the whole thing together. He was the guy that found all of these borderline people and got them in a group together and then was telling them, hey, would you be open to doing this? Hey, would you be open to doing this? Hey, would you be open to doing this? And kind of got them in a little group together and then coordinated the whole thing and then turned around and tattled on them. And that helped push their agenda. So I think that our intelligence agencies have the ability to latch on that. Well, number one, they have the ability to figure out who is susceptible because of the mass data collection to falling into these kinds of traps. And then they have the ability to bring about this whole movement and lead it in a direction that ultimately helps their agenda. I think the same thing could possibly have gone on January 6th, to where this was planned and they intentionally brought people who were susceptible to this kind of stuff along into it and helped coordinate it so that they could push their agenda.
You just gave me some new information I didn't know. So that everybody knows my opinion, and people are asking, so does that mean Q is not true? I'm not here to debate that because they have exposed a lot of things that are true. We all know that. I'm here to talk about whether it's detrimental to our country or not, because a lot of people are banking on Q coming in and saving the day, and they have no interest in 2022, which is what we're going to be ultimately tying this show into, to show you how it's important. It's important that you participate. It's important that you use your power to vote to dictate what happens in your community at a state and local level. But I'm going to let Casey go next.
So the hard part about this is I look at it from a different scenario a little bit, but I do agree a lot with what Dylan said. Is when we look at this scenario here, there's a lot of things that if you look at, the part that I question right now with this new administration, not prior to the inauguration, but with this new administration that's already in office, what has Q pointed out to be productive to help us keep our country going forward? I have yet to see anything productive. Nothing. Zero.
I'll
Zilch.
agree with you there.
And everybody's still holding on with their tight grips, like, oh, someone's going to come and save the day for me, hanging on to their life jacket. They're not paying attention to what's going on in the Biden administration. They're not paying attention to what's going on with the borders. They're not paying attention to the bills that are passed or going through states to take gun rights and your rights away. Joe Biden did ask today to have mask mandates and lockdowns be considered again, so we don't actually have freedom anymore. We have to start looking at those things. And that is where I question Q, is we have to start taking back control and doing it. I don't see Q promoting that. Our rights give us that ability, and we got to start utilizing it.
Absolutely. Cole, you look like you have something to say.
Yeah, I do. So what I wonder is, when I was 15, I believed that George W. Bush pretty much personally knocked down the Twin Towers, and I was a conspiracy theorist all the way. I told all my teachers, all my friends' parents, even got some of them to jump on board. Okay, I wasn't interested in politics at all until that moment, until I started watching these crazy conspiracy videos. And Casey, I agree with you absolutely that this is distracting people from the bigger issues and pulling the wool over their eyes. But I do wonder if this has brought some of the people who would never have any interest in the system out of the woodwork to participate, and not in a productive way. Q's doing nothing productive, like you said. I mean, it's absolutely detrimental to the well-being of anybody who thinks that this country can function the way it does, right? But I do wonder if more people are involved with politics now because of Q than were before. And once it finally does drop off, if those people are going to stay on the bandwagon and hopefully attach themselves to something that is a little bit more productive, like voting in the 2022 election. Because the heat and the vitriol and the rhetoric, and what Trump has done more than any other Republican, is get everybody on the floor to yell at each other. And honestly, sometimes you need to yell at each other before you can talk to each other. People are like, oh, our political climate's so toxic. Well, it's better than everybody being apathetic, in my opinion.
And I think Trump did the same exact thing of making people pay attention. And I think this kind of goes to some of the negative incentives that exist in our political system and in our media. Because when you have entire, massive swaths of the population who are disenfranchised from our media establishment, then they're going to start turning in all kinds of directions with no great alternative, and people are going to fall into conspiracy stuff a little more. And I don't think conspiracy stuff is necessarily bad. I mean, obviously there are big money powers way up the food chain that have an agenda that they're not being totally honest about. And so there is room to question. There's room to think. I think these movements get easily hijacked, though. I think they start off sometimes with a legitimate premise. And then as more people get, and this goes for any leaderless movement, as more people hop on board, it really twists and perverts things into something that oversteps their utility to the point that it becomes an actual impediment to the legitimate premises that they were founded on.
Facts. So as we're talking, we're getting questions that are coming in. And I think that's good because we call this Make America Think Again for a reason. I'm asking these questions because I want people to think. There's been like 5-6 comments now, excuse me, where people are asking, how is voting going to help when they have not solved the last election? I don't think you understand. You're talking about a federal election, okay, versus a state election. They are two very different things. When you're voting in a state and local election, you're voting for those representatives to go to the House and the Senate to represent you. And right now, you, as the American people, you really don't have anybody in there to represent you. You don't. So now it is your duty and it is your job to get out in 2022 and go vote, because a lot of states are actually pushing back on what happened in the federal election. This comes also with research when you're paying attention to what's going on locally around you, instead of everybody's. And this is another reason I feel like Q is detrimental. Everybody's so focused on realms that they can't reach or touch. You can't affect it. There's nothing that you can do as the average American to even reach up there in that level of security clearance, as I call it. All right.
No, go ahead and finish your thought.
So it's wasting my time and yours. Okay, it's a distraction because nobody's paying attention to local government anymore, which is where everything affects you. Everything that you're going through now, it honestly has zero to do with the Fed. It has everything to do with your local government. So voting has the voting systems and the voting laws, they're being changed. Mm-hmm. They don't advertise it on TV because they want you to not vote. That's their purpose in hiding it from you. You don't feel powerful because they told you you're not powerful, but you are, and your vote matters. Go ahead, Casey.
My big thing is, like, the big distraction here is HR1. They want to federalize the election, which makes that stealing an election more likely. Right now, most people don't realize our country is founded that each individual state has more power than the federal government within the borders. Our federal government is supposed to be outside the borders and stay there, or try to neutralize things between states. That is the whole purpose of it. Our states run everything. So when you start saying, well, they haven't solved this, they're trying to solve it by saying we're going to go to a federal election system. Then they can easily steal it every election, just like they did in Venezuela. We hear anybody talking about HR1 to make sure that it's passing? Is that on anybody's priority bill? No. Some people are just hanging on to that life jacket of Donald Trump's going to be my president again, and he's going to save the day. If that happens, we're going to have a party. We will have a party. I didn't vote for him, but we will still have a party. The problem is we have to make sure we are securing the stuff that's going on now so we can make sure we don't give it all away. And when we are focusing on our states, 2022 is a big year, and we can make a big change. We're not going to make the big change that was made in, I think it was 2010, when we made the most seat flip to a Republican Party in history. 63 seats, I think, is what it was. We don't have that many available, but we will make a big flip, and then we take back control, because the Senate and the House actually controls that from the federal government.
Casey, I just want to add on that.
Go ahead.
So, for those who don't know, the reason the federal government can get involved in state affairs is something called the Commerce Clause. Okay? And the Commerce Clause is basically the feds can only be involved in state affairs when it's something that affects interstate commerce, right? So that is why, like, the Postal Service is important to the federal government, because that allows them to mediate interstate commerce. So technically, if your state didn't have any other dealings with any other state and you just shut down the highways and didn't buy or sell anything, then the federal government could not touch you at all. So their power derives from this very obscure clause in the Constitution. You guys should go check that up, how much they can make out of such a small little sentence. And they do it all the time. They do it all the time.
I see. This is where I'm not going to say that. This is where the tough love part of me comes out. I don't like seeing Americans talk weak.
No.
Do not call yourself a patriot. And I'm going to say this right now. I don't care how people feel. You do not get to call yourself a patriot and then say, I'm not powerful. You don't get to call yourself a patriot when people that are well-versed in these areas are giving you information on how to go forward, telling you, look, a lot of laws are changing. I'm literally telling you, if you don't get out and vote, America's gone. It's gone, because Democrats are going to run everything. You know what they're going to do? They're going to push you the filibuster. They're going to push through all the pieces of legislation they want, and it's going to be F you America. And it'll be F you America because Americans didn't participate. It requires participation.
Right.
You are powerful.
And it's way easier to get involved in local politics than you might think it is. Seriously, I have met the CSU Turning Point USA chapter president while he was going door to door campaigning for Cory Gardner. And then recently, I met the District 3 city council candidate while he was going door to door in a neighborhood. And I brought them both on my radio show, and we've started collaborating together. The city council guy is hooking me up with a bunch of local politicians and people who are involved in local government, as well as, like, for example, on the budget committee of our local school district and things like this. Like, these people are all connected. And once you start opening the door to some of them, they open the door to everyone else. And you realize that this network isn't nearly as large and complicated as you think. There's a few key people involved in a few key committees, and they're easier to infiltrate than you think. By the end of our conversation, Gavin, the city council guy, like, recommended, like, dude, do you want me to show you how to get involved in some of this stuff? And I was like, well, gosh, yeah, I don't know if I'm ready to be on the city council. But he told me that in order to win in District 3, he only needs 3,000 votes, and there's more than 20,000 registered voters. He only needs 3,000 votes to win because fewer than 6,000 even show up to vote, even turn in their ballots. Even though in Colorado we have mass mail-in voting, everybody receives their ballot to their house, and all you have to do is fill it out and put it in your mailbox. And he says between the presidential election and our local primaries and local elections, 80% of people drop off and throw their ballots in the trash can. And if you could just reach a couple thousand people, you change the whole shape of your city government.
Thank you.
Yep.
That requires you participating, not you making excuses, not you, well, it doesn't matter, I can't do this, I can't do that. If that's the case, then we're all right here, and Q is a huge detriment because now you're saying your vote doesn't matter. So why do you even care what happens to America at this point? That's my question to you. That is your civic duty as an American citizen to participate. And you're just going to piss that off and give up?
Right.
Well, you can't say that there's funny business until you've personally gone and volunteered in the electoral process and seen what's going on the floor and actually been involved in the groups that are counting the votes, in the groups that are running this thing. And you can actually do that.
You can.
Well, and also remember, guys, like 2022 is a local election, not federal election. So it's not involving a presidency.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, you have the lowest voter turnout in those elections. And we are seeing, like, everybody keeps saying, I'm so discouraged. And why? They cheated. What's the point of voting anymore? You are now turning over in 2022. If we don't vote and we don't participate in that scenario, we actually do turn over the most power of our government to the side that we don't want to turn it over to.
I'm glad you see that, Becky. Other people need to stop the crying. All right.
Yeah, and I mean, people never even thought about this before for the most part. When did you ever hear about a rigged election or any sort of voter fraud and cheating on the mainstream media for days or weeks at a time? And you may have made some people incredibly, incredibly mad saying that, oh, it's actually you guys trying to steal the election, not the other side. But what you've actually done is open people's eyes up to the fact that there can always be rigging, cheating, wool being pulled over your eyes in every domain. It doesn't matter if it's a conspiracy theory or a local election. You need to stay vigilant. And this is what I was saying about Q not being terrible in every aspect, because it's at least made some people vigilant. Like, I used to think Bush personally knocked down the towers. I don't think like that anymore, but I'll tell you what, I have been involved in politics and watching things and what's going on and figuring out the truth ever since.
Right.
See, here we go. Now I'm about to go Sunni on you in a nice way. When I talk about black on black crime, okay? Or let me not even go there. When I talk about how Black folks have the ability to get out and recreate Black Wall Street, okay? Kind of like I'm telling you, you have the ability to change your community around you. That's what you can control. And you come back with, don't forget though, they broke laws and covered with windows with pizza boxes. It sounds like you're saying, oh, but a white man destroyed it. So let me just think of all the bad stuff that happened so that I never get out and go try again. Because really, they've scared the shit out of every American, and they do this on purpose. They have scared you into submission to where you'd say, you know what, I'm not even going to vote because it doesn't matter. Nobody put that thought in your head but this election that just happened, and it came through mainstream media. America has to think again.
Mm-hmm.
You have to think. How else can you change anything around you? Do you know how many people voted in this election?
Well,
we can't even trust those numbers because they're not actually true. A huge portion of the country didn't even vote. They didn't vote. Imagine if every single American, now that will never happen, but imagine if over 50% of Americans got out and voted. How in the hell would they ever cheat? How would they prepare for that?
You can't. If you can beat them at their own game by unifying, going out, and solidifying in numbers, how can you go and say and prove, hey, because it's easy. If you can prove all of the people that actually were able to vote, or 50% of the people that were able to vote, voted, and then they cheated, and they're like, oh, wait, we got more. Well, no, there's not that many people that can vote in the United States.
That's do you know that there are laws? There are now laws in states that are banning and stopping the influx of mail-in ballots. This is what happens when you don't research. You don't research, and you're stuck on what mainstream media has stuck in your head forever. And it's going to stay there until you get it out and do your due diligence. We talk about that at Primetime Patriots all the time.
Right.
It's excuses that I'm looking at on this chat. I can't even lie to you here. Let me know what you guys think. And this is not me coming at the audience. I love you guys. I love you enough to tell you the truth and tell you that we have to participate. That's all this is. We have to. But
Right.
what do you guys think?
Look at what the Democrats, what extreme leftists, I should say, not Democrats. Look at what leftists do when they think they don't have power in the system. They block up in black and burn down the police station. And I mean, guys, they're doing things. They're making things happen. They're passing laws. These people are out there making a difference. So even if you think that voting gives you no power, even if you think that there's nothing you can do as a citizen, these people sure don't think that, and they are doing something, and it's not voting, and it is making a difference. So this comes back to something we've been saying, guys, is we on the right do need to find a way to express ourselves in different ways. So if you don't think voting makes a difference, first off, you're wrong, sorry. Mm-hmm. But second off, okay, then do something else. Because what we don't do is curl up on the couch and cry that the world won't listen to us. We make the world listen to us.
Facts. What you got, Dylan?
Well, I was just going to say, sometimes you just start with what you can do, even if you're wrong. Even if you don't even have a great grasp on what you're doing. And often just by making that effort, somebody who is looking for people to make an effort will find you and guide you in the right direction. When I started doing my radio show, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea where it was going to go, what to do. I was paying $100 per episode to do it, just to have an opportunity to speak. And I brought on Cole. We started this media company. And now I have a full-time job working at this radio station and delivering these newsletters to people with our public representatives' contact information on it, bringing on city council members, getting in contact with the local chapter leader of the Walkaway movement, the Colorado Walkaway movement, and these other people. And things are starting to come together, even though, gosh, in the beginning, I was just faking it. I basically would just get behind the mic and I would regurgitate things I had heard before with very little of my own independent thinking. And as time has gone on, I've really been writing and studying and writing and studying and practicing having these conversations and meeting new people and figuring out how these systems actually work on a local level and who's doing what and who's pulling strings and how to get involved in these organizations. And it's starting to make a difference. And I mean, I have just become so much better equipped to have these conversations and have built such a more comprehensive framework for my views that I'm much better situated to defend them and introduce them to new people.
Well, I think this is going to be a short one because I can feel myself. I'm getting slightly irritated. And it's for good reason because I'm only 30, you know, and I have went hard at educating people, giving information. You know, you do your best to encourage people, to tell people, look, we still have to get out here and vote. We still have to do our due diligence as an American. We still have to research. We still have to know who these representatives are. And then you get people that say, yeah, you're preaching to the choir. What do you want us to do as influencers? I don't think people understand the position that you truly put us in when there are people that don't have faith or hope in the election system anymore. The government is corrupt, yes, but they're looking at it at a federal level. Honestly, there are over 381 people watching right now. How many of you go vote in your local election? Don't lie. Be honest. If you vote in your local election, drop a 1. If you don't participate in your local election, drop a 2, please. And I'm going to wait to see these numbers. If you don't vote, you have no right getting on here complaining. You don't. And I'm talking about a local election. Not a federal, a local. I see a lot of ones coming in here. So how do I have people complaining that their vote doesn't matter? I don't get it. This will be my first. Okay, good. You're getting involved.
Good.
The thing about preaching to the choir, too, is like, if you don't do it, someone else is going to do it. And preaching to the choir, actually, if you have a good relationship with your audience, is having a conversation and discovering new ideas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got to also remember, I apologize. I should have actually had the actual number. I should, because I knew this was where we were going. But our last presidential election, and Suni you and I had this conversation before. You take up the two numbers, no matter how you want to look at the votes. Let's consider all the votes were valid.
Yeah.
Whatever. 81 million plus 74 million, right? So you put those two together, what does that equal? 155 million people.
Mm-hmm.
There is 330 million people in America. How many people do you think that are not eligible to vote? I doubt it is over 50% of Americans. That is in a presidential election. Then you go down to the local election, and so that's under 50% of Americans. Then you go to the local elections, and we look at like 30 to 40% participation in most of the time in local elections. This is why it's an important topic. I understand if you guys are voting and you're participating, thank you, keep doing it. But this is also to educate those that don't. So we can help get more, because if we have more, we strengthen numbers. That's how we do it. You got to keep going that way.
Hey, how did Trump get elected? How did Trump get elected? Every election is rigged. America's corrupt. We have no say. How in the hell did Trump get elected? How did Lauren Boebert get elected? If your vote doesn't matter, I'm slapping you in the face with facts right now. You know what they did? They were like, "Oh, we didn't prepare enough for Trump, so let's cover our ass." And you know what? They took 4 years to do that and prepare. Do you know what we're doing as conservatives and Republicans? Where? Who's out there organizing?
Mm.
Who's out there showing who their local representatives are? We all are. But I'm just saying, who else is doing that? I see a lot of people involved. I see more people that want to get involved, and we're getting information so that you can get involved. But I see a whole lot of people that I know for a fact do absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm. And so this is not a scolding. This is just an eye-opening experience to really share why we're saying getting involved. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
And the big parts, like there's someone that mentioned Gretchen Whitmore is up for re-election in 2022. That should be plastered everywhere on social media, and she needs to be out. If no one's saying that, no one's going to believe it, and she's going to be re-elected.
Thank you.
Like there is some decent people that I think need to be removed, even though I have no voting power in those states. Mm-hmm. Whitmer is one of them. Plaster her name and why she needs to be out everywhere, and then get involved and find somebody that you'll back. I'm not going to tell you who to back, but I will say that find someone to back them up. And PTP will be putting together a list to where we can help you do that here soon. To where you will have lists and guidance and how you can get involved in those things. That's what we're working on.
Right. The two primary ways that you actually fight and win in politics is by, number one, educating yourself and educating people around you. And number two, getting involved where you are most effective. And you are most effective on the local level. You're most effective when you're talking with people face to face and actually persuading them. We do have a legitimate role for people to talk to their base. I think it's interesting. What is the legitimate role of someone to be preaching to the choir? Well, number one, it's to de-radicalize the choir, right? To help get rid of some of the bad ideas that produce bad PR for your own group, right? We need to be reaching out to the kind of people who are susceptible to the really fringy QAnon stuff, the kind of people who are susceptible to the January 6th kind of stuff, and bringing them closer to a moderate and inviting position that makes them look good. We need to be finding people who are waving Confederate flags under the impression that this somehow represents free speech, when we know that this is creating a tremendous PR problem. It's counterproductive. The role in preaching to the choir is refining your own base into something that more people who are undecided will agree with. And this is part of the reason I think a lot of the social media censorship is actually ultimately going to backfire on the left if they don't do it correctly. Because what's going to happen is all the crazy Republicans are going to get filtered out, and only the most moderate and intelligent ones are going to be left. So what you're going to end up with is people who are unaffiliated, which is a third of the country or more, looking at their social media pages and saying Antifa, BLM, pseudo-communist socialist radicals on one side, and looking to the other side and see people having, decent civil conversations with each other, inviting people in and trying to genuinely persuade people instead of scream and condescending to people. We should be utilizing this cancel culture to our advantage. It's actually a tremendous opportunity for us, right? While the left is castigating everybody out for not being pure enough, we should be holding open the door and inviting people in. And we need to get rid, or at least not get rid of, we need to bring closer to our side the people who are making those independents uncomfortable with us, right? The people waving the Confederate flag, I understand. There's more context to the idea that, there was more going on during the Civil War than just slavery versus not slavery, right? There was the monetary system, right? There was states' rights. There was a bunch of stuff going on. But we need to think about, who are we losing by propping up symbols like that? We need to think about, who are we losing by propping up QAnon? By de-radicalizing people on our own side, we make our side much more appealing to people who are undecided. And in a system to where politics are driven by elections. Elections are won by votes. It seems to me that fighting in politics would mean persuading unaffiliated voters.
I don't know who you're talking about, but everybody voted here. And I voted for Trump, so
He's upset
You're
because
saying-
I said I didn't vote for Trump.
well, that's Casey's right. If Casey decided not to vote for Trump, great. Casey didn't vote for Trump.
And I didn't
But
vote for
nobody-
Biden.
Who was a part of the left's plan? If I was a part of anything on the left, I would be telling black people that they're not worth anything. And I wouldn't be doing a show here with 3 other white people.
I prefer cracker, please.
God.
No, like, dude, seriously. When we're talking about voting, like Suni and I had this out in a show. What was it, a month ago? About voting third party. That's my realm. That's what I do. I'm not for red and blue. I'm really not for the most part. I also voted. I think it was 6 or 7. I lost count now that it's been so long since I voted. It was like 6 different parties on this election. So I voted. I voted for the right person for the right job. And so it doesn't matter. You're accusing based upon party. And that's not right. We don't do that.
And just because even if you didn't vote for Trump, I'm sorry, Trump is not the end-all, be-all, swamp-draining god of ending the left's plan. If you think only Trump can save us from the left, then you may as well not live on planet Earth anymore, okay? If you think only one guy can save us from the left's plan, and it's Trump, then you really are drinking the Q Kool-Aid, the Q-Aid, or whatever you want to call it. I don't care. Because there's a whole lot more going on to counter the left than just one guy who already lost the election, fair or not. Doesn't matter. It's time to move forward. We can do it. I don't put all my eggs in one basket, okay? Trump's not the Easter Bunny or whatever. I don't care. It's time for us to get together and do something else and move forward.
Facts.
Yes. So, in my opinion, Q is detrimental to America because it's putting people off their guard. People are not really paying attention the way they should, and we know that. I can make that speculation and assumption because of all the comments that I'm reading.
Mm-hmm.
People are not aware of what's happening in their state or their city.
No.
So you can't be. You can't be. It's more of we're waiting. Listen, I understand everybody feels upset about this election. We all were. Imagine the people that had to sit here and watch it and give information to you all. Do you know how long we were confused? Look, Dylan, you know, I was doing 24-hour streams like, what the freak happened? We all did it. We all had our moment of like, yo, this is messed up. But we can't stay there. You can be mad about this election until you're 90. What is that going to change? Nothing. Emotions mean nothing. The world doesn't care about how you feel. And quite frankly, I don't either. I care about what's happening in the country. I care about what I'm leaving behind for my children, other people's children. I care about getting people proactive. I care about action. I don't care to sit here and whine and gripe and do constant shows about the F word when I can't change the F word.
Mm-hmm.
I can't change. You know what I can change? North Carolina. That's what I can change. I can go to Charlotte and make my voice heard and have a conversation with Roy Cooper. Those are things that we can do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not chastising anybody. I'm not bashing anybody. I love everybody that watches these shows. Everybody knows that. But at some point, tough love and honesty needs to be something that you grasp. Evergreen, tell me how that's helping the country. No, you can't. That's why the chat's so still. It's not doing anything. I'm gonna let you guys give your closing statements, but this is my plea to everybody. Please stop following false hope and get out and make things change for yourself. That's how it happens. We go ahead. Whoever wants to go next.
Well, if we want to talk about, I'll put in my last word on Q. One thing that Q really did was create a much bigger divide between people who were not militant on the left and not militant on the right to become both militant on the right, the Q people, and anti-militant on the left, the people who said we have to come in and defeat the people who think that Democrats are vampires drinking blood, or whatever it is they do. So
Even though they basically
this really created this battleground that people have dug themselves in such a deep trench that they're going to need to claw their way out of the mud to see eye to eye again, right? Otherwise, we're all just looking into our own dark little holes with our spades. So what we need to do now is get over it, crawl out of our holes, and say, okay, you may have believed in Q. That's okay. What can you do now? It's gone. It's over. Trump has lost, right? And the Q haters, okay, well, Q's gone now. All right, there's no more hope. The movement has shrunk. That's it. That's pretty much the end of it. We can talk again. There was a period where it was bad. Let's make it good.
Let's talk across the board and let's change minds. That's what all this is for. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Education and conversation. Those are the two things that are going to make the biggest impact. Education and conversation, and a willingness to act on the faith that you can do something. So I know this is a shameless plug. I'm inviting everyone to go to facebook.com/Liberty Revolt Media. I'm going to share 2 articles. One article I've titled What It Means to Actually Fight in Politics and How to Win, and another article, Reforming the Two-Party System. And I think these are full of information that you guys might find helpful in the upcoming conversations and in the mindset to have moving forward.
Facts. What you got for us, Casey?
Biggest thing, like, unite, don't fight. First of all, next is 2022 is coming. Like, that election is going to be key. We will be spreading information, sharing details on how you can be getting involved, who to pay attention to as much as we can, because things get fiery at the end. People drop out, people come up. But what we need to do is be engaged and focus on what our country is currently doing. Not worried about the Q stuff, because they, like I said at the very beginning, they haven't provided anything productive since the inauguration. And so with that, we got to make sure we're focused on how we can keep our country in a line right now. If Donald Trump becomes president, he becomes president. So be it. But right now, there's a lot of things in jeopardy that no one is paying attention to, and we got to make sure we're talking about it.
That's the point of this live. That's the point of this podcast. Everybody watching, if you're listening on a podcast form, thank you for being here. You can support this by listening every time we drop an update. Like I said before, I don't want people to think that I'm not coming down on anybody. I just have a very nonsensical approach to things. When things don't make sense to me, I'm going to say they don't make sense. And a lot of people are turned off by that. But I just want people to be prepared. I want you to get ready for 2022 because it's important. It's already 2021. It's already 2021. Cindy, I'm glad you asked that question, because we are giving you the tools and we are providing that information for you right now. This is what we're working on at Primetime Patriots. Christine, Casey, Russo, Blake, me, Kaylee. We're getting together with other people that are really involved in their local government, like Bucky Dillon here. We have David Rinkler, who's running for mayor. We're in contact with all these people, and we're getting information to you guys. So please be patient with us. This is information. This is a lot of information we're trying to condense to be able to give to people so that it's easily accessible. All right. Thank you for coming on, guys. I appreciate it.
Great show.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks
Always
for
a
having
pleasure.
us. I'm putting the link in the comments section so people can find.
Okay. Go check out Liberty Revolt Media. They got some
100%.
dope stuff.
Yes, they do.
Thanks, guys. I always love hanging out with you. I love you guys so much. That's what it means to be a patriot. It means to love all Americans,
Hey, so look,
Facts.
even the
I
QAnon people.
there were over 700 people watching total. Okay, I'm gonna show you something. We've been on here for 50 minutes. Around the time where we started calling out how it's not really effective to what's going on in America, do you know we dropped 300 viewers?
I'm not surprised.
Can we start a QAnon page?
We don't like you.
We're starting a QAnon page.
It went downhill. Y'all have a good day. I appreciate everybody tuning in.
See you guys.